The Alberta Men's Survey was developed by over 50 men and 10 women concerned about men's well-being and the promotion of healthy, nonviolent relationships. On April 28, 2015, prior to launching the survey in the community, the survey leadership team convened for a full day of research training. This training was organized by the Faculty of Social Work, University of Calgary, in partnership with the Ethno-Cultural Council of Calgary, City of Edmonton Community Services, and the Alberta Father Involvement Initiative. 27 participants attended, including community members and organizations, agencies, funders, government representatives, academics, and students. The research training includes several modules, one of which is presented here. The purpose of this research training was to prepare the leadership team and research assistants to implement the Alberta Men's Survey and to also develop a community-friendly research teaching series that can be used by others. We would like to extend our appreciation to the Ethno-Cultural Council of Calgary and the United Way of Calgary and Area for making this video series possible.
So just as I'm starting here, and I'll go very quickly, because this is not hard. I'm not calling on people to be professionals or therapists. I'm calling on us to be human when we're giving out the survey. And that's something that most of us have had good experience with, and it's something we should all want to practice anyway. So before I go there, how many of us are social workers in the room and would have a fair number? How many just in some sort of counseling profession or have had mental health training and things like that? So there's a fair number of us. We're very well resourced here in terms of knowing what to do in these sorts of situations if something should crop up with the survey, I think. However, even if we are just concerned citizens, I think that brings us with enough information. And we'll talk about that in a little bit here. The survey, and it specifies this in the proposal, is actually pretty low risk, right? It's not it's not a hammer on the head, it's not a poisonous pill or anything like that. It's really a walk through your life to help you develop some narratives and help you to better understand what your wants are in terms of being a healthy person, in this case being a healthy man in life, right? So that's not too threatening. However, the questions, if you go through them, do cover an awful lot of issues that could be trigger issues for people, because we're talking about those areas that are really barriers to them being all that they want to be, to be fully humans. We're talking about finances, we're talking about relationships, we're talking about gender issues and things like that. So these are trigger issues for people. When they're reading them through, it could well set them on a path that you hadn't been expecting when they sat down and said, yes, I'd like to do the survey. So it's for those situations that we need to be prepared. And if they happen, we need to be prepared as humans to be able to anticipate and prepare to offer some sort of support and or assistance. And that doesn't require a university degree, as I was saying. It requires a heart and some, where your compassion with you. So what issues might we be encountering? Well, as I mentioned, if you go through the survey, it's pretty extensive, right? We're talking about all the life experiences that men can have that are formative in terms of having healthy relationships. And it ranges from whether we have access to our basic needs and on up the line to whether we're getting our social needs met and whether we're being recognized in society, if we're bringing some characteristics that might marginalize us in some way, some sort of ethno-cultural identity or sexual identity or something like that. So there's an awful lot of issues that are potentially there. I was on the assessment and short-term counseling team at the City of Edmonton, which is a walk-in center and also a phone-in center for all citizens of Edmonton. Just if they're having a problem or something's happened in their day and they need to get some information, they can phone in and talk to the social worker. So I thought that would be a pretty good place to start, just to see what sorts of issues are coming in on that line on a regular basis. And they've actually created their they have a tick box form here to help the social workers. So these aren't necessarily the issues that people that are phoning or walking in or saying, I've got this domestic violence issue and I really need to get it checked out. But in having conversations with people, these are the issues that have come into our office on a regular basis over the last 10 years. And I've grouped them according to very common, and less common. You can see the common ones are domestic violence. So this might be as simple as somebody's filling out the form and he's just had a spat with his wife, and he's feeling pretty either pretty justified in having had that spat with his wife, or he's really kind of second guessing himself. And he's going to read questions in there that are really asking about how well resourced he is as a man, and does he have somebody else he can go and talk to if he's having a crisis with his wife, or he really is on his own, those sorts of things. So that might be an issue that will come up. Relationship issues, of course, just the need for personal development. And the other top one is just experiencing some sort of mental health issues, which are generally in the our walk-in and phone services are issues of anxiety and depression. We tend not to see the more extreme forms of mental health issues there. But those are the things that we know are likely to happen, and those are the things that we're probably best informed on a day-to-day basis to be able to respond and connect people to other resources. You can see the list of other things down there, and the common ones might be things that we want to be prepared or knowledgeable about in some sort of way. The less common ones, these hardly ever come up. People don't sit down and tell you, I have a drug addiction. Sometimes you notice it when they're sitting in front of you. But these other issues are less likely to come up. So I think in terms of what we need to prepare ourselves for, these are the kinds of issues in the very common area there that we're likely to encounter. How do I help these signs? Well, how do you recognize the signs that someone may be in distress or have a question? Again, this is not hard to do, but it's subtle, I guess, right? We're all wired to be able to be empathetic and to be aware of what's happening for somebody else. So it could be them. It could be as subtle as just their test-taking attitude. You can detect some tension coming into the body and stiffness, or it's in their breathing, or they may just stop you and say, "Gee, I've really got a question about this sort of this particular thing here," and those become indicators that somebody might be triggered by something. And if we want to be sensitive at that time, we can respond to those situations, not with a whole bunch of information, and not with, gee, I saw you really kind of breathing hard on item 12, and I think that one relates to such and such a thing. Have you thought of doing the following? Coercive? I think so, right? Invasive? Certainly. What you can do, though, is just to say, gee, I noticed when you were filling out the survey that it seemed to take, you were taking your time doing that, and I was wondering if that was heavy for you. Was there anything that really stood out for you? I was just concerned there for a minute, wondering if I could offer any sort of information to you. It's an invitation, right? We can offer invitations if we anticipate distress, and we're more likely to anticipate it if we're sensitive to what we're doing with our instrument and just what kinds of questions we're actually asking people to tap into. So again, it's that being very human in those situations, which doesn't require a whole lot more than just really being present and really caring about the people that we have coming in to take that questionnaire, right? And that's not a far stretch for any of us here in this room, I don't think. So how do you respond humanely to someone? Well, I've given you an idea that there's a simple phrase I think we can use. I didn't type the phrase, but the phrase is, gee, I'm concerned, you seem upset. As simple as that. You can turn to, I care, I'd like to offer some support, Adrian. Turn to your neighbor right now, and say to them, I'm concerned about you and I want to offer some support. Go ahead, practice it. Right now. If somebody is concerned and all you've done is sort of identified it for them, you may have done a whole lot there already. You've acknowledged them as a human being, right? You've validated their feelings, you've been authentic, you've opened the door for a bit of a question if they have one. You haven't set yourself up as an expert, you've simply created a connection there. And a conversation could continue there. What do you want to do if the connection is made and somebody does affirm that yes, in fact, they are having a rotten day and it was really nice to have somebody to talk to? Well, I know who our resource people is, and I think what I would just do is turn around and go, Adrian, this one's yours. Right? That's an easy solution.
Everybody practice this now. Adrian, this one's yours.
But that doesn't always happen, right? I mean, I'm thinking we are well-resourced, so I know I'm providing a lot of information here that's really very simple and accessible to all of us here, and certainly those of us that are trained will know that. How do I talk to someone? Well, you can't go wrong if you start with, as I said before, I really care and I'd like to offer some support. You can never go wrong with that. That's never going to set somebody off on a real tirade, or if it does, it's very, very remote that would happen. So state I care and I'm concerned. I think that's my whole message. And what do you say after that? I think it's, if somebody does indicate they need some information, I think it's often a humane thing to not, if they're out in front of a booth, to make them comfortable if they are asking for some information. So to take them away to a private distance from other people just so they can sort of say what it is they need to say is appropriate. Opening the conversation is maybe it's the first step, but it's an important step. And you don't have to solve anything. You just have to kind of help them to be able to say what it is on their mind that they're actually looking for. And then identify the appropriate person with whom he or she can talk. And it could be Adrian. who's going to be out at all the events now.
Thanks, Adrian.
Or somebody else, it's a professional. I was going to try and create a list of all the services based on those that were most commonly connected to issues that were identified at ASDC. And it's a large list even in Edmonton, and I looked at Calgary, and you actually had more services than we did, so I didn't think that would be a good way to go. So what I did do is I created a small card which didn't print well. It printed okay except for half a line.
Do we pass those out, Michael?
Yeah, everybody can take, I think there's 6 if people want to take them, or one just as a model of what you can do. Can I just take one to talk about as well? So I identified 3 resources in Alberta that I think we can put on the card and we can direct people to. And of course it's 2-on-1, which exists both in Edmonton and in Calgary, and that just connects you with a real live voice person who can talk to you and help connect you to resources. They're only available during work hours between 8:30 and 4:30. They're not crisis counselors, they are brokers, so they'll be able to hear an issue presented to them and identify the best resource to connect that person to, or provide them with a list of resources so they can do a bit more work. And that's just connecting them to 2-on-1, very easy. If they are online, and maybe we want to include this with the online thing, I don't know. It's informalberta.ca, has a search engine which can access all of the resources in Alberta as well. So people can go online, get that information. And then if somebody actually did need to talk because they're in distress, both Edmonton and Alberta have a distress line. In Alberta, the number is, in Calgary, it's called the Distress Center, and it's 403-266-4357. It's the same last 4 numbers for the one in Edmonton. Oh, the time? Okay, yeah. And I can't, and then it's something else and something else up front, but it's cut off. I can't read it. But that's a template, and we might want to just manufacture that to have the contact university piece on the other side. So handy cards. If people like them, I'll add to this template with what we need on the back based on what we talked about today, and I'll send that to Lisa for circulation. So there we go. Go well, be healthy, help people.
Great, thanks, Michael.